Welcome back to another Shopify AMA with 2H Media in collaboration with Shopify themselves. We're quite happy to still be doing these. This is our second year doing this. We actually started with some Black Friday, Cyber Monday AMAs last year, and it's exciting to be doing that again this year. So if you haven't been here before, the way this works is we spend however long it takes in this stream. Usually it's up to an hour or two, but sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's a little longer. Just answering your questions about everything Shopify. We try to keep those to specific topics for each stream. So today, the theme is preparing for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. The way to get your questions answered is to go into the Shopify forums and enter a question into the specific 2H Media AMA thread for today's live stream. I'm going to put a link to that forum board into the chat right now. So if you haven't had a chance to go in and post a question, by all means, feel free to drop your question there. That's the best place to get your question answered. We do prioritize answering questions from the forum before answering any questions from the Twitch chat. So if you've got a question you want to have answered, the best thing to do is go into the forum there, post your question, and then we also come and we repost our answers to those questions directly in the forum after this live stream. So if you post your question and then you can't stick around to hear the answer, if you check back in the forums later on, you will see our answer posted there as well. Sometimes we get a ton of questions posted to the forum. Right now I've only got 4. We'll see if some more come through as we continue the stream. When there's a more overwhelming amount of questions, sometimes we can't get to all of them, and so we prioritize the questions based on the number of likes they get in the forum. So if you see a question that is similar to the one you want answered, one of the best things you can do, rather than posting a duplicate question, is go in and just give that question in the forum a like so that we can see that that one's getting more attention, people are more interested in, and then we know those are the ones we need to give priority to. So once again, welcome back. It's a Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Shopify AMA with 2H Media in collaboration with Shopify themselves. If you have questions that you want to get answered about preparing for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the best thing to do is post those questions onto the Shopify forum in the appropriate board, which I have linked in the Twitch chat as well. And I'll do a reminder about this again partway through the stream. So with no further ado, we are just about 10 minutes into our stream, and we've got a decent number of people watching now and some questions in the forum. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dive into the first one of these questions and share some of my thoughts. So I'm going to click into how to approach Black Friday, Cyber Monday with limited marketing budgets. Realistically, as a small company, how far in advance should I be starting my campaigns? As a luxury gifting brand, targeting both South African experts abroad and local high-end customers, our challenge for Black Friday, Cyber Monday is twofold. We have a relatively small marketing budget that needs to stretch across Meta and Google, and we don't want to dilute our premium positioning by getting lost in the heavy discounting frenzy. How should niche, high-end Shopify brands with limited budgets approach Black Friday, Cyber Monday so that we can still capture attention, drive sales, and maintain brand integrity? That is a really interesting question. We're kind of delving into super niche territory here, right? Because it's a luxury brand and you don't have tons of money to put towards promotion, and that's fine. My instinct is to go very limited with your Black Friday, Cyber Monday promotion. As a luxury brand, heavy discounts can have the opposite of the intended effect, and that's kind of alluded to in the question. A lot of the time, if people see heavy discounts on a luxury product, it's going to take away from the credibility of that product as part of a luxury brand. So to my mind, you're already touching on the right approach here. You don't want to go deep in the discounts and appear like any other e-commerce brand. If you're offering a luxury product, and you want to participate in Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I wouldn't be offering steep discounts to make that happen. What I might offer is a contest of some kind. You know, if it's a luxury brand, maybe you can have some kind of entry to a contest with purchase, depending on the legalities in your market, or maybe you can have some kind of additional giveaway. If you offer any kind of warranty on your product, maybe you can offer an extended warranty during the sale. Like, there's lots of little extras that you can offer that are some kind of bonus, but not cutting the cost of the product aggressively. Because in a luxury market, I think cutting a cost on your product is one of the worst things you can do for your brand image. Bit of a controversial take. If your budget is limited in terms of getting the word out there about the sale, and you're worried about how the sale is going to make your brand look, and let's just say sales are stable, I think there's an argument to be made not to participate in Black Friday, Cyber Monday at all. There is a real strong instinct when running an e-commerce store that you need to participate in every major sale. And for some stores, that's absolutely true. You know, in some markets, some niches, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is going to be the busiest time of year for you. And it's going to be really critical that you participate in that sale and try to make the most of it. But if it's not a fit for your brand and you have limited opportunity to compete in an advertising space around a sale like this, it's also worth acknowledging that Black Friday, Cyber Monday can be one of the most expensive times of year to advertise. The way modern digital advertising works is typically on a cost per click bidding basis. So you're trying to outcompete the other brands for placement on people's screens by spending more dollars on a per click basis than they are. And that's an oversimplification, and I'm not an ads guy specifically, so I won't get into the details of it. But essentially the takeaway is, if you've got an extremely limited budget, you're going to find that this is a very difficult time of year to get your ads seen, because your bigger competitors with deeper pockets are going to be throwing a lot of advertising dollars behind the sale in order to get the word out there. And so this was kind of a two-part question. Question one was, you know, how do I participate in this sale as a luxury brand without hurting the brand? And I think the answer is finding more creative ways to offer some kind of bonus for buying during the sale rather than a discount. And the second part to the question was, how do I participate in Black Friday, Cyber Monday when my marketing budget is small? And I think some of the other questions kind of delve into that as more. So I'll lay out some more ideas throughout the stream. But, you know, what hot take I want to put out there right from the start is, you don't need to participate in every single sale. If you have a limited advertising budget, and that advertising budget kind of has to last you all year, you might find that you get better value for money pumping your ads out during a time of year when your competitors aren't aggressively spending to try to get in on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I think we're going to focus for the most part in this stream on ways different businesses can capitalize on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but it's okay to admit that it's not for every business. And if you're not positioned for it from an ad dollars perspective, or in terms of like product fit for the sale, then don't feel like it's something you have to do. That was a question from Rain CP. Excellent question. I'm going to find another question to dive into. And just a reminder for anyone who's joining us partway through the stream, if you want to get your questions answered, the best thing to do is drop them in the Shopify form in the appropriate board, which I'm relinking in chat now, because we do prioritize the questions on the forum above the questions in the Twitch chat. Alrighty, give that page a quick refresh, see if anything else has come in, and then I'm going to keep going through these questions. So our next question, if I go ahead and share screen, comes from Maurice KO. Hi, I have 2 questions. Number 1, I have a Shopify online store. I have established SEO and organic ads with TikTok and Instagram, but no one is buying. How can you help me with diagnostic the real issues? How can you help me diagnose the real issues? And then question 2, I want to make skincare products. Can you help me with a list of skincare manufacturers who do a private labeling? So right off the hop, I'm not going to be able to help with question 2. That's just not a niche that I'm super familiar with. If you had questions about the board game industry, which is where more of my background lies, I could tell you all kinds of information about the manufacturing side of things. But in the skincare products, I couldn't tell you a list of manufacturers that do private labeling, but I'm sure that's something you can find online by looking into some manufacturers and reaching out to them. It is a lot of work. As for the online store, you have established SEO and organic ads, but no one is buying. How can you help with diagnosing the real issues? So, diagnosing issues in your sales funnel is something I talk a lot about when it comes to Shopify. And really, this comes down to a few things. So, number 1, you want to check your traffic. If you're relying on SEO and organic social media posting, odds are you aren't driving a massively large amount of traffic. Usually, if there's no actual digital ad spend, you're going to have a lot lower traffic than someone who is actually pushing traffic with their ad spend. So I'm always going to start at the top of the funnel, and that is, are we reaching as many people as possible? Because it's tough to get accurate metrics on anything further down the funnel if we don't have a large enough sample size to begin with. So the first thing I always check out is, what's your traffic like? If your traffic is, 100,000 views a month, that's tons of traffic. We're going to get really good, really accurate data the further we go down the funnel. If your traffic is 10,000 views a month, that's pretty good. Odds are our traffic's going to be, or our metrics down further down the channel are going to be useful. If you're getting like 100 views a month at the low end, if you're getting like less than 1,000 views a month, if it's like really not a lot of traffic, things like your conversion rate are going to be difficult for me to actually accurately gauge, because our sample size is so small that we end up having to take those metrics with a grain of salt. So even though you're saying, we get traffic, I would be really curious how much traffic we're actually talking about before I do any further diagnosis. With that said, going down that funnel, one of the things I'm going to look at is right in the Shopify dashboard. There's tons of reports in the back end of your Shopify store that give you all kinds of information on how people are interacting with your store, how people are checking out, what your conversion rates are like. And you can get the conversion rate itself directly out of your Shopify store. Typically, what we're aiming for with a optimized Shopify store is around a 3% conversion rate, at least in the range of 1 to 3%. That's kind of average. 3% would be very, very good. 1% would mean like, okay, we're in the realm of where we should be. If you're getting a less than 1% conversion rate, then there's some kind of conversion issue that is stopping people from actually checking out and completing a purchase once they reach your website. And there's lots of things we can look at that can impact, the question was, what's the real issue? The real issue could be all kinds of things. It could be that people are landing on the wrong page of the site. This is one of the most basic common ones we see all the time. And this is super relevant. If you're running ads for Black Friday, Cyber Monday specifically, make sure where those ads take your customers is a logical and useful point on your website. So for example, if you have one product that you're specifically advertising really heavily, your ads should be taking people directly to that product page, not your homepage. And this is one of the most common mistakes we see all the time, is people advertising the homepage itself when really you want to drive that traffic as close to their final destination as you can get them. As like a general rule to go by, Imagine that every additional click your customer has to make in order to make a purchase cuts your conversion rate in half. If you keep that in mind when you're structuring your sales funnel, you can do a lot for your conversion rate. It's very, very common for us to see people just directing absolutely all of their traffic to the homepage, and that's a really frustrating user experience for someone trying to buy from you for a number of reasons. So like number one, if you're advertising a specific product and they click a link, they click on an ad for that product, and then they're taken to a homepage where that product's not displayed, that's really frustrating. They clicked expecting one thing and they didn't get it. And then number two, when people land on your homepage, depending on how your site is organized, they may have to click into a collection and then a sub-collection and then browse through several pages of products to finally find the product what they're looking for. And every single one of those clicks that's required to get them to that destination is going to cause a decrease in your conversions. So it's really important that you sort that out if that's an issue. If that's not the issue, maybe you're running ads, you're taking people directly to the product page they should expect, or to a collection page that would make sense too. You know, like if you're advertising your Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale very broadly, there's an argument to be made to directing those ads to a collection page specifically for your Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale where all of the on-sale products are displayed. There's a few ways you can go about it. But for argument's sake, let's say your ads are taking people directly to that product page. So they land on the product page. It's the product they were expecting from the ad that they clicked. And for whatever reason, they're not adding it to cart. Well, what could that be? A lot of the time, especially for higher end products or more complex products, we see people not putting enough information on their product pages. What you need is what we call a product story. And what we typically see is either nothing, where people just aren't filling in descriptions at all, or just the description and a couple of images. So, you know, the most common Shopify product page is your product section at the top of the page with your gallery of images on one side and your add to cart information on the other side. And you can go in, you can click the button, you can buy the product. Great. If your product is not self-explanatory and not inexpensive, like super inexpensive, if it's not a no-brainer product that people are just buying because they know they need it, it's a commodity, it's easy to purchase, you need way more information than what's in those sections in order to convince people of your product's usefulness and legitimacy. And so if you look at, you know, some of the best examples in the industry, I always go to Apple. And this is kind of pie in the sky. Not everyone needs to be at Apple's level, but Apple does a really good job of showing how built out a product page can be. If you look at the product page for any given iPhone, that product page is a mile long and it's got images and video and lifestyle statements and all these like really cool sales points about this product all the way through this really long page. They're telling a full story about the product. It's a really good idea generally for people running a Shopify store to treat the product page as what should be a single complete source of information around that product. So that if you're landing on that page, every bit of information that you could possibly need to convince you that this is the right product for you from the right source should be available on that page. And there's no such thing as too much information on the product page. You can go as far with that as you want, and that can only help you. So these are some of the first things I would look at. You know, look at, are you getting the traffic volume you need? Are you directing people to the right point on your store? And then once people reach that point, is it doing everything it needs to do to actually sell your product? And, you know, a short list of what that product page should absolutely include. Lots of images. Video will increase your conversion rate even if people don't watch the video. Testimonials or reviews can be super impactful. Any other kind of social proof, certifications that the product may have, any information that you can provide to build trust and excitement is going to do a good job increasing your conversions. And then there's two other things I look at from a conversion perspective to say, you know, why aren't I getting the sales I expected? One is shipping. This is a huge thing to look into. Check the back end of your Shopify store. Look for your abandoned carts. Are people reaching the checkout page and then dropping off without completing their purchase? Usually, what that means to me is that there's an issue with your shipping rates. It could be that your shipping rates are too high and you need to find a way to either offer free shipping or offer flat rate shipping at a more reasonable rate. And that might mean raising the cost of some of your products and wrapping that shipping rate into the product cost. There's lots of ways you can approach it. But if you're getting abandoned carts, it usually means that people aren't satisfied with the shipping rate for one reason or another, or that you're just not communicating your shipping terms clearly enough. So say you offer free shipping on orders over $100 and you're seeing a lot of abandoned carts where people are reaching the cart with $75 worth of products in their cart. If you didn't communicate to them clearly before they reach the checkout page, one of the great ways to do this is through a banner along the top explaining, hey, free shipping on orders over $100. There's a good chance a lot of people are missing that free shipping option, hitting the checkout process, seeing how much their shipping cost is going to be, and then abandoning their checkout. So that's kind of one of the last things we look at in the sales funnel. And let's say you're doing all that perfectly. You've got tons of traffic. You are directing people to the right part of your store. The product is really well explained. You've got these beautifully built out product pages that do an excellent job selling the product with strong calls to action, great social proof, tons of media. You get them to the checkout page. The checkout page has really reasonable shipping rates that your customers have no reason to object to. You've validated that your checkout process isn't broken, because I've seen that a few times where people actually don't have their checkout set up properly and people aren't able to check out from certain markets. So let's say you've got all of that perfect and people still aren't buying. At that point, it's time to confront the uncomfortable truth that there might be an issue with either your product market fit or your product offering itself. And these are uncomfortable conversations to have with business owners. An issue with the product market fit is a little easier to address, because that means we're reaching tons of people, but those might just be the wrong people for your product. And that could be that your advertising campaigns simply aren't optimized to reach a market that's going to be interested in what you're selling. And that's something that we can work on over time. We can do some user personas. We can revisit your audience and try to figure out who it is that's actually going to be most interested in this product and make sure we're marketing to the right people. We can adjust the wording on your website and make sure that we're actually speaking to the values of the audience that we're trying to reach. If it's a product market fit question, there's lots we can do to investigate that. But in some cases, it's just a product that doesn't have a super strong value proposition in the first place. And the unfortunate reality is, if it's not a great product, no amount of driving traffic and polishing the store is going to get us to convert visitors into buying something that they're ultimately not interested in the first place. And I'm not saying that that's going to be relevant to everyone or even most of you. But I have to mention that because when we talk about examining the full sales funnel, if we fixed everything along the line and we're still not getting the results we want, then those are the kind of uncomfortable, important questions that we have to start asking. That question came from Maurice KO. Thank you very much, Maurice. I'm going to take a moment to reintroduce how we do this, because I've seen the view count go up and down a little bit throughout the stream, so I imagine there's some people watching that weren't with us from the start. So once again, this is a Black Friday, Cyber Monday focused Ask Me Anything with 2H Media and in collaboration with Shopify. And the way we do this is we go to the Shopify forums, where there is a specific board where you can post your Black Friday, Cyber Monday questions. And I'm going to relink that in the chat again now. So if you click into that board and post your questions, I will answer those live to the best of my ability on this stream. If you can't stick around through the full stream to hear my answer, don't worry, because we do go back to the forum after the stream has ended, usually within a couple of days, and repost a brief description of what our answer was, and then a link to where you can find it in the actual recording of the stream itself. Towards the end of this call, I will be asking for additional questions in the Twitch chat as well. But for the most part, the Shopify forum is the best place to post your questions to get those answered, because we do prioritize those over any questions posted in the Twitch chat. I am going to go ahead and dive into another question, which comes from, give me a second, Everything Emble. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Everything Emble asks, I am a small business who sells fashion accessories, and this will be my first Black Friday Cyber Monday experience. What are some tips you have for the process in general? And what are some things I do to get a jump on bigger companies? A couple of interesting questions in there. So I'm going to focus on general tips first. So tips for the process in general, I'll focus on that first. And then I'll circle back on how to get a jump on some of the bigger companies in the ecosystem, which I like that. That's an interesting question. So general tips for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. The first thing I will focus on is the offer itself. You have to make sure your offer is super compelling. Because during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, there's going to be tons and tons and tons of companies competing. You're not just competing with your own niche at this point, you're competing with essentially every other company in the world. It's one of the most difficult times of year to actually stand out from the rest of the market, because look at a company like Amazon and look at the steep discounts that they offer on Cyber Monday, and then consider your own spending patterns and consider the spending patterns of your customers, and acknowledge that people only have a certain amount of money available to spend at any given point in the year. And they typically are not budgeting that spending into very specific categories. Even people who have budgets, they might have a bucket in their budget for shopping. They might have a bucket in their budget for entertainment. They're probably not breaking those categories down into very, very granular niches. And so, if you sell fashion accessories, was the example here, you're competing during this time of year for people's budgets, not just with everyone else in the fashion accessory niche, but everyone else who's in like the retail shopping niche as a whole. Excuse me. So what that means is, if you do a 5% off sale, a 10% off sale, something that is very, very conservative, because maybe you don't have the margins to allow for something more aggressive, it's going to be really difficult for you to compete during this time of year, when larger companies that are also in the retail space might be offering 60% off, 70% off, massive steep discounts, because they're dealing with a margin and a scale where they're able to achieve those offerings. So you have to get creative in how you structure your deal. If you're able to offer those incredibly steep discounts, and this is easy, you just match step with all the big companies, you offer incredible savings, and that's going to be really appealing, assuming people want your product in the first place. If that's not something that's possible, then you have to get more creative. So that could be something like, it's very popular to offer like free gifts with checkout can work if those gifts are interesting, and especially if you can create a sense of exclusivity around them, or a sense of scarcity. It's popular to offer like charitable donations. Rather than giving you a steep sale, we're donating X percentage of our profits to this major charity during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And if you buy here, you're supporting a great cause. There's lots of examples you can find online of how to craft an offer that's going to be more engaging than just a flat discount. And so if you aren't able to offer super, super steep discounts, you have to start looking into some of those other options in order to create an offer that's going to stand out during a time of year when there's massive savings all over the place. So that's the first thing I would focus on, because if your offer doesn't make sense, then nothing else we do is going to impact your sales during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. The second big bit of advice I can offer is plan this far earlier than you think you have to. You cannot start planning your Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale too soon. If you've got specific products that are going to be included in your sale, you want to start thinking about those products months in advance. It could be 6 months early and you're already laying groundwork so that you're not trying to scramble to get all of the work done last minute. If you need a Black Friday, Cyber Monday collection on your Shopify store, someone's got to build that collection. And so you might want to think about building that collection well in advance so that when it comes time to actually launch your campaigns and start your sale, it's ready to go right on that day without you having to set it up at the last minute. The earlier you set it up in advance, the stronger your options are for things like building out that collection page to have additional information on it to be really a lot more engaging for your audience. So start as early as possible. Plan to start your advertising campaigns early as well. The closer you get to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the more expensive the ads are going to be. So if you can start driving some traffic and get people excited to check in with your store prior to the event, there can be a lot of value in that. There's even an argument to be made to launch your sale itself early. If you can stagger your sales over the week or two leading up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, there's opportunity there to capture some of the audience before some of the other companies out there get their sales online. And so you might be able to catch some of your customers before they've blown their budgets on all the other Black Friday, Cyber Monday shopping they're doing. So that early start is really critical. Another big thing that a lot of people overlook is post Black Friday, Cyber Monday follow-up. This is really important. If you plan on ever doing any email marketing, it's a really good idea to have that set up and ready to go before Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Start capturing some of those customer emails, get those into your email marketing pipeline right away. Make sure you're capturing all of that data because, number one, it's going to help you be more successful next year during Black Friday, Cyber Monday because you can remarket that existing audience that purchased from you the year before. And number two, it creates a lot of additional opportunities for things like review requests, upselling opportunities. So if there's additional systems that you need in place, like your email marketing, try to get those set up well in advance as well, because there's a lot of opportunity to be missed out on if you don't have that ready to go. That's kind of broadly covers my general advice for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So boiling that down, have a really good offer. Think really hard about what that looks like. Start your planning super early and then start your marketing relatively early. And then make sure you've got systems in place to capture customer information and capitalize on that every year following this one. The second part of the question was, how do you get a jump on the bigger companies? And that's a great question. That's it's tricky, right? Because there's certain advantages that the bigger companies have that you don't. They're going to have a bigger marketing budget. They're going to be able to offer steeper discounts. Where the larger companies are at a disadvantage is that they're typically less agile and they're less able to provide a personal touch. One of the most powerful marketing tools you can offer as a small e-commerce company is just a personalized thank you card. It's incredibly impactful just putting a handwritten note in the package that you're sending out, thanking people for their purchase, telling them what it means to your small business, giving it that really individualized feel. And this is also a great upselling opportunity. Whether it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday or not, every single order you ship out, you should be including personalized information in there and a coupon card that people can use on their next purchase. We like to tell people that the products you ship out are the only part of your marketing engine with 100% open rate. And what I mean by that is if we run an ad, not everyone's going to click that ad. Some people will, a lot of people are going to ignore it. If we send out an email, some people are going to open that email, A lot of people are going to ignore it. It doesn't have a 100% open rate. If you send a traditional mailer, a lot of people are going to take a look at that. Not everyone's going to keep it. Not everyone's going to read through it thoroughly. A lot of people are going to throw it straight in the trash without ever taking a look. When you ship your products, every single person that opened that product, when it arrives at their doors, they're going to open up the box. And if the first thing they see in that box is a coupon card offering them a discount on their next purchase, that means that that offer is being seen by every single one of those customers, and that is going to give you a way better win rate than any other marketing opportunity you've got. Those are some of the best ways to get a jump on the bigger companies. There are some other great things that you can do to leverage traditional marketing methods that a lot of bigger companies aren't bothering with the same way they used to. If you've been around a while, you've probably noticed that you're getting less junk mail in your in your mailbox than you ever used to. With the rise of email marketing, a lot of companies just aren't relying on traditional marketing. And that means that traditional marketing has opportunities to stand out in a way that, another online ad or another email isn't going to stand out. So it's definitely worth investigating what it would cost and what it would take to run a traditional mailing campaign. As I said, you're not going to get as strong a win rate with traditional mailing as you are just including an upselling opportunity in your actual product packaging, but you could be amazed at how much of an impact sending out traditional mailers can have. And this is something that a lot of larger companies just aren't bothering with. If you can get traditional mailers out to your local market, in the month leading up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that can do a lot to drive local customers to your store, which as a small business should be one of your most important markets. And there's tons and tons of reasons why you want to focus on your local market. We've talked about this in past streams, but essentially, you can't target everywhere in the world at once. That's going to be massively complicated and massively expensive. You have to pick a niche, and if you pick your local market, number one, your local market is more likely to resonate with you because that's your friends, neighbors, community. They're going to see some value in shopping local. And number two, you have additional opportunities for in-person marketing that can be really impactful. I talk a lot about going to local conventions, trade shows, festivals, and that can be a really frustrating and draining experience for small business owners. It is very common to get a booth at a local festival, sell a few products, and not make back your booth costs. It's very, very common. I see it all the time. It's unavoidable, and that can be really depressing. But your appearance at that local event also helps you build your brand within your community and helps you get the word out there about your online store. So even though you're not making as many sales as you might like on the spot at that event, it can be a fantastic marketing opportunity for driving local traffic to check you out online after the fact. The reason I bring this up now is because, again, that's another opportunity that these large companies that you're competing with online aren't taking advantage of. And so if you're a small business, particularly a small business on a limited budget, one of the best things you can do is look for ways to get involved with your local community that leverage a lot of your time and maybe less of your money than trying to compete in the online ads sphere. I am going to move on to the next question. I hope that helped everything, Emble. Our next question is from Maximus3, and I'll go ahead and share screen so you can take a look at this question with me. And Maximus3, this one is from Rove Freely. Maximus3 came in and provided an answer, but the question was from Rove Freely. How can we best optimize our SEO for Google Search, Google Marketplace, Google AdWords, Google Trends, DuckDuckGo, AI Agent, etc. in preparation for the holiday buying rush to get more website visits and sales? This is to grant seamless, full-circle continuity for the customer UX from search to site to sale, or from ad to site to sale. This is to grant seamless. So granting seamless full circle continuity and optimizing SEO are kind of two separate things. Granting a seamless experience, that kind of comes back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of, making sure your ads are actually taking people to the pages they would expect to land on, making sure those pages answer all of people's questions in one place. That is going to have an add-on benefit for SEO, but broadly speaking, from a user experience, you just want to limit the amount of clicks people have to make to get to checkout and make sure you're providing as much information as you can all in one place. How can we best optimize for SEO? Some of this can get pretty specific. So I'm not going to get into how to set up like Google Shopping or anything. That's pretty technical. Best optimizing for SEO, you really need to develop an understanding of what people are searching for, and then make sure that text is represented on your product pages. And this again comes back to having a lot more content on the product page than most people use. If you really build out that product page, that gives you opportunity for more headings, more paragraphs, more opportunities to get that SEO friendly text onto the page itself. I'll call out the AI agent thing specifically. I think it's probably premature to focus on trying to really game the AI agents. That entire branch of technology is kind of in flux, where it's evolving all the time. And what we're seeing in the market is that the AI summaries on search aren't doing a lot of work to drive traffic to actual websites. Most people are reading the summary and moving on. So where you really still want to be focused is in traditional search engine optimization. And there's some nitty gritty, making sure your images are tagged correctly. A big one, this is probably the most common mistake I see for SEO from a small business perspective. Please try to avoid putting text in images. You want your text to be actual text that's part of the web page. If your text is on an image, number one, that's not accessible. So anyone who's trying to use a screen reader or other accessibility technology is not going to be able to read that text. They're going to have no idea what that image says, and that's creating an inequitable website experience, which is bad for the market, bad for your company, and most of all, bad for those users. And secondly, any text that's baked into an image instead of being actual text on the website can't be crawled by the search engines. They have no idea what that image says, and so that's not improving the SEO of your website. Those are some of the most basic things. SEO at its core comes down to two major things. One is good structure, and the other is good content. There's a metaphor I like to use, and maybe it's because I'm Canadian and I've had to scrape a lot of ice off of my windows in the winter. Imagine that your website is hidden behind a pane of glass, and that pane of glass is covered in frost. So you can't see what's through the pane of glass. Your website's invisible. When we improve the structure of SEO on a website, what we're doing is we're essentially scraping the ice off of that pane of glass so that now the search engine can see through the pane of glass. They can see the website behind it. They can see it clearly. So improving the structure of your SEO allows the search engines to see what's going on your website unobstructed. If they don't care about what they see, that's not going to be effective. So the structure of SEO, it helps us make the website visible. But if the content buried within the structure isn't meaningful, isn't valuable to visitors, isn't sharing information that matches up with what people are searching for, then we can make it as visible as we want. It's not going to drive more traffic because it's not going to tie into searches. The search engines aren't going to prioritize it. And so ultimately, most of the work in search engine optimization comes down to improving the quality of the content itself more than just the structure of the website. And this has changed a lot over the years. There was a time way back when you could stuff a bunch of extra tagging into the code of a website and appear for page one on Google. That's not so true anymore. Search engines have gotten a lot smarter. They've improved their search algorithms to the point where that really doesn't work the same way it used to. And so what we do when we perform search engine optimization on a website is we, number one, make sure that from a technical perspective, that website is really visible to search engines. And number two, we actually clean up that content to make sure that the words you're using on your website correspond with the words that people are using in their searches. And so you can do some of this yourself if you go and if you pay for a tool like SEMrush and you investigate the analytics around what people are searching for, then you could conceivably go in and punch up some of your content. One of the most effective ways to improve the SEO on your website is just hire an agency to come in and manage your SEO for you. We offer SEO packages. There's a QR code on screen down here that you can scan if you're interested in learning about how 2H Media handles SEO. It's one of those things where you can do a little bit on your own, but if you really want to refine it, if you want it to be completed to an expert level, you're going to have to hire an expert. So good news being on Shopify, a lot of the structure is probably pretty good to begin with. The themes that you're using on Shopify go through a pretty rigorous approval process with Shopify, so there's some basic mistakes that are going to be avoided out the gate. There's some tools you have access to. One big thing is renaming your images and tagging your images. When you upload an image into the product page, make sure you go and you provide alt text for that image in the back end of the store. Make sure you're naming those image files something appropriate before you upload them in the first place. More text on your web pages is going to be a good thing. If you can use a tool like SEMrush to find what people are searching for, you can go in and you can update some of your text to try to match those search terms. Those are going to be some of the real basics that you can maybe tackle on your own. And then if you really, really want someone to clean it up and do a powerful job improving your SEO, consider investigating an agency like ours to come in and actually do some of the SEO work for you on a monthly basis. And that can mean things like writing blog posts, increasing the amount of overall searchable content across your whole website. It can get pretty in-depth if SEO is something you really want to take seriously. Alrighty, I'm going to move on to the next question, which comes from Mason Brava. I'm going to go ahead and share screen. This question from Mason Brava. Hi, I know this may be a broad topic, but what would you say is a solid strategy for Black Friday? Specifically, what are the key actions to take before, during, and after the event to make the most of it? This is a great question. I like how clearly it's broken up in terms of the before, during, and after. I kind of touched on this earlier, but I'll circle back on it again. Before Black Friday, all kinds of planning and setup. There's all the work in the world to do before Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You've got to make sure your offer is really strong. You've got to figure out where your audience is and make sure you're planning to market to the right channels. You want to get the structure of your Shopify store prepared in advance so that if you're going to use email marketing, that's set up and ready to go so that you're capturing all the data when the sales happens. You want to make sure if you're going to have a Black Friday, Cyber Monday collection, that's set up well in advance because these things can be a real pain to figure out last minute. You need to figure out if you're going to do any in-person events or any physical mailing to actually get the word out there. And broadly speaking, the earlier you start that planning, the easier things are going to go for you. One of my favorite sayings in our business is that there are no marketing emergencies. A lot of small business owners act very reactively and try to plan out all of their marketing on the fly, and it creates these little fires that you're trying to put out all of the time. But we have all the time in the world to plan for the various marketing events throughout the year because we're on a cycle that repeats itself year after year after year. So we're getting pretty close to plan your Black Friday, Cyber Monday this year. But if things don't go perfectly this year, that's okay because there's still next year. And next year you can plan that event really, really early. And the earlier you start your planning, the less stressful it's going to feel actually executing on those plans as the event grows nearer and nearer. I firmly believe that every business should start their planning for their full year of marketing activities as early as January. Very beginning of the year. Think about what your full year looks like. Think about what your biggest sales opportunities look like. You're going to probably know them from previous years in business, or if this is your first year in business, you can probably guess with a reasonable degree of accuracy what some of those opportunities are going to be. Black Friday, Cyber Monday is going to be huge. Christmas is going to be another big sales opportunity. If you are selling seasonal products, maybe you're in fashion or something that's summer specific or winter specific, you know that certain times of year are going to be really impactful to your business. And so you don't need to get all of the details planned out, like first month of the year. But what you can do very early on is figure out your milestones. If your Christmas sale is in December, well, it'd be really nice to have your holiday sale collection set up by November at the latest, at the very latest, so that throughout November, December, you can be advertising that collection. Similarly, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, if you can have that collection ready to go a couple of months early, that's going to limit the amount of work you're doing leading up to the sale. During the sale itself, marketing communication is one of the biggest things. If possible, wind down some of your ad spend during the sale because it's probably not going to make financial sense to compete in terms of budget with a lot of the other people in the market, and ramp up your activity on social media and in your email marketing, because if you can market to an audience that's already engaged with your brand, it's going to be a lot easier than trying to reach the general audience that's being inundated with sales opportunities. And make sure your communication is really on point. If you have a live chat on your website, that can be a really powerful tool. Be prepared to spend a ton of time answering questions. If you're experiencing an increase in traffic and an increase in orders because of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you're going to need to really have your communication on point in order to keep up with that increase in traffic. So communication is key during the event itself. And then after is all about capitalizing on the data that you were able to collect during and leading up to the event. So that could be new customer emails that you need to reach out to with post-purchase follow-up campaigns, trying to get review requests, upsells, that kind of thing. Reflecting. This is a great time to reflect on what you think went well and what went wrong during the sale, because like I said, plan as early as possible. If you've just completed your Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and how the sale went is fresh in your mind, the strong points, the negative points, things you want to do differently next year, take those notes now, somewhere you will remember them, so that you can go back to them when it comes to planning Black Friday, Cyber Monday next year. Because at this stage, the event is over, and what you really want to do is look to the future. So broadly speaking, that's how I would approach Black Friday, Cyber Monday before, during, and after. Mason Brava, I hope that helps answer your question. Going back to the Shopify forum where I'm actually answering these questions, I've been seeing some new questions come in throughout the stream, so thank you very much for participating that way. I'm once again going to note, in case anyone is joining us partway through, that the way we do these streams is I answer questions from the Shopify forum live on the fly. If we happen to get tons of questions in the forum and we get a few questions in the Twitch chat, we are going to prioritize the questions on the forum over the questions in the Twitch chat. If you've got a question that you want to have answered, you don't have time to stick around and hear me answer it, that's fine. After the stream, usually within the next couple of days, we go back and we post our answers to the questions back onto the Shopify forum. And once again, I'm going to link the specific board where we're taking questions for anyone who's joining us now. And with that said, I will launch into what is currently the last question on the forum. And this comes from a lot of whimsy. And I will go ahead and share my screen. A lot of whimsy asks, I just launched, I'm running an ad, I'm getting a great response. First day of ads, I sold a $100 woven blanket. I need to get my inventory up. What is a good number of products overall at a minimum for a store to have so that it looks legitimate/professional? I think I'd be slightly more successful in sales if I had more products as well. Also, is there a reasonable benefit for small shops/limited products to do a Black Friday Cyber Monday sales campaign? How much does amount of products/total number of items play into realizing results from a Black Friday Cyber Monday sales campaign? I love this. These are super interesting questions that tie into a topic that I really love to address when it comes to Shopify. There's a major misconception represented in this question that I want to focus in on because this is critically important and a major pitfall for a lot of new e-commerce companies. Counterintuitively to a lot of people, some of the top Shopify stores in the world have 10 products or less. We have launched Shopify stores that were as small as one product. And it can be really impactful to focus on selling a small number of products really effectively rather than trying to sell a large number of products with a lower level of individual effort. When you get into trying to sell a massive selection of products, that does a few things. Number one, it puts you into competing with companies that you're probably not able to compete with. You know, if we want to use variety as a core selling point for your online store, well, now you're into competing with Amazon. You're into competing with the big marketplaces that offer everything under the sun, and that's not a battle that you're going to win because these massive companies just have incredible amounts of resources to get people onto their stores and then incredible fulfillment infrastructure for actually getting people those products conveniently and quickly. Independently owned online stores are great for selling bespoke or exclusive products that have high individual value. A variety play is really, really tough and is not going to make your store feel more legitimate. If anything, it's going to make your store feel more generic because there are so many small drop shippers out there offering these varieties of lightly branded products across a wide range of niches that you're going to feel like part of that crowd instead of feeling like your store has a unique identity. By really narrowing down your product offering to a handful of high quality products that you put a lot of care into, you can establish a brand that is much more effective and seems much more purposeful to your audience and is therefore drastically more likely to convert visitors into customers. So the core question here, or the core concern that's being asked about in this question, the question was, what's a good number of products at a minimum for a store to have so that it looks legitimate/professional? So the core question here is, how do I look legitimate/professional? And the solution that's being suggested is, well, maybe if I have more products, I'll look more legitimate and more professional. And that's not true. If you want to look more legitimate and more professional, the best thing to do is increase the quality of the product pages where you're selling that small handful of high quality products. What that means is investing in additional time to flesh out the descriptions of those products, share more information about what makes those products great. What that means is investing in additional media assets to really seem like you put a lot of work and a lot of effort into this page. Video, photography, customer testimonials is huge. Cross-branding, like if you can have a logo grid of stores where your products are sold, that can do a lot to lend legitimacy. Really a combination of showing that you've put a heavy investment into these selection of products and showing strong social proof demonstrating that other people believe in your products is going to do a lot more to lend legitimacy to your business than just trying to use a shotgun approach and throwing as many products at the website as possible. My absolute favorite e-commerce stores are stores with 5 to 10 products, or even lesser, but 5 to 10 is a great range, where each product has a fully built out product story with tons of media and tons of social proof. Those stores are going to have a way easier time converting than stores that just have a massive variety of products that don't have that same attention to detail. So that's sort of question 1. Question 2 was, is there a reasonable benefit for small shops with limited products to do a Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaign? How much does amount of products / total number of items play into realizing results from Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales campaign? This is kind of a loaded question because, again, this comes back to how many products make it worthwhile. And there's a difference between a store that is small in terms of revenue versus a store that is small in terms of inventory, of product SKUs. If you are a brand new e-commerce store with an extremely limited budget, capitalizing on Black Friday, Cyber Monday is going to be a challenge. It's going to be really, really tough to compete in the digital advertising space because your budgets aren't going to stack up against the competition. It can even be tough to do things like local mailing campaigns or attending events to get the word out there because your time is typically being capitalized by a bunch of different things. And even these smaller local advertising opportunities still cost money. So if budgets are tight, you may find you get really limited value out of Black Friday, Cyber Monday just because your reach isn't big enough to really get a massive impact out of any kind of sale. On the other hand, if the concern is just that you don't have a lot of SKUs, that really doesn't play into things at all. Take the example of someone selling a very high ticket item. Maybe your company sells a laser engraver, and this is like a $10,000 laser engraver, and you sell one product. You sell one high-end, very technical product, very expensive. Are you going to be able to do well by offering a big sale on that product? Well, yeah. If you can offer a massive, like a deep incentive for people buying that product this time of year, and it's something that people have maybe had their eye on but is out of reach from a budgetary perspective, you could see a big boost in sales by offering a steep discount and getting the word out there. You don't have to have a massive product range to make that make sense to people. So what it really comes down to is, in order to succeed in a Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale, you need to do 2 things successfully. You need to reach a lot of people, and you need to generate excitement. If you can do both of those things, it really doesn't matter how large your set of SKUs is, because if people are excited to buy your inventory and you've managed to reach a lot of people, you're going to get a lot of sales. Which may seem like an oversimplification, but like at its core, main takeaway from this question from a lot of whimsy, I really want, if there's one takeaway that new small business owners have today, I would really like to destroy the myth that you need to have a large SKU count in order to be successful online. You're going to have much, much, much better luck doing a good job selling a few products than doing a poor job selling a lot of products. And it's very difficult for small businesses to do a good job selling a lot of products because that takes a ton of infrastructure and a ton of resources. So I hope that helps a lot of whimsy. If I go back to the Shopify forum, I'm not seeing any new questions on the forum board right at the moment. I'll give this a quick refresh. Nothing new coming through. We've been streaming for about an hour now, so that's a pretty good stream for Tuesday morning. And looking again, nothing new on the forum. I'll take a moment to mention, if you're looking to work with 2H Media on anything, one of the best things you can do is reach out to us, book a free strategy session. You can do that through any part of our website. If you're trying to drive a lot of traffic, two of the things we really believe in: search engine optimization and digital advertising. There's a QR code on screen you can scan to reach our website and learn more about how we approach SEO. With that very small plug out of the way, I'm not seeing any new questions in the Shopify forum, so I will open up the floor for anyone in the Twitch chat. If there's any questions that you want to just get in quick in the Twitch chat that I can maybe answer in real time, I'd love to see those. I'll give that a few minutes, and if I don't see anything coming in either in the Twitch chat or the Shopify forum, then we will end up wrapping this up. And I hope those of you that did tune in and ask some questions today got some insight out of my answers. For those of you that are still here and maybe don't have another question for me, I would just love for you to drop in the chat what you felt the most impactful takeaway from today's conversation was. Alrighty, I'm going to refresh the Shopify forums one more time. I'm not seeing any new questions there. Not seeing anything coming in the Twitch chat either. And give that just another minute. Alrighty, Summertime Pink says, this was great. Thanks. Thank you very much for joining me. Wouldn't be so much fun on my own. So I appreciate y'all for being here. I think that's it. That's all, folks. So with that, I'm going to bid you a great Tuesday, a great rest of your week. Thank you very much for joining me. If you have anything you want to reach out to us about at all, by all means, feel free to reach out. You can scan the QR code on screen to reach our website and find out more about our SEO packages. I will also drop the link to that webpage in the chat. And you can also book a free strategy session with us on that page, where we will be happy to answer your burning questions, learn a little bit more about your business, develop a plan that makes sense for you, and help you move forward with confidence and clarity. If any of that sounds impactful, I would encourage you to reach out to us, book a strategy session, learn about how we tackle ads in SEO. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me today, and have a fantastic rest of your week.